What's up, guys? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with Tesla SPY in the overall markets. I'm also going to break down what's happening with the economic calendar moving forward, talk about other factors out there and what you should be watching for as time goes on. But just note that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Webull link. If you deposit any amount of money, you're guaranteed 12 free stocks. If you deposit $500, you're guaranteed 20. And deposit $25,000 or more, and you're guaranteed 75. The offer ends very soon in just about 2 weeks. Anyways, now let's talk about the market. So, as far as Tesla goes, we're doing a very, very good job at holding up thus far. Also, notes that with this consolidation phase that's coming, Tesla is very, very tight right now because we're basically like preparing for a very, very big move that's coming out for earnings. So, the question now remains what's going to happen to Tesla and what's my opinion of it? I believe it's very important to talk about some data first before I break down more details about these charts. Just notes that tomorrow is going to be Friday, October 18th, 2024. Tomorrow, we don't really have much data coming up, but we have Bostic giving a speech at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then at 10 o'clock a.m., I'm sorry, at 9:30 a.m., Bostic gives a speech. That's when the market opens. Then at 10 a.m., we have Kashkari giving a speech, not to mention Waller at 12:10. Now, the last time Kashkari spoke, he basically was very optimistic about the economy, but he did raise some concerns about the labor market as he said that we could start to see a big spike in unemployment. The market didn't like that, so just be a little bit careful when Kashkari gives a speech. Besides that, there's nothing too crazy coming out on the data side for tomorrow. Now, when it comes to earnings, just know that we had TSMC announce earnings in the morning. They did relatively well, which is why we saw the semiconductors and tech rebound very nicely. However, after that, another big factor for tech is Netflix, basically, and they did really, really well as well. So that's another very, very good sign, at least for the markets going into tomorrow. For tomorrow, for Friday, we don't really have much coming out, just like American Express and a few other earnings. But for Netflix, they did very, very well. They beat on the third quarter subscribers. They basically beat estimates, and we saw some nice growth. So EPS was a beat at $5.40. Our revenue was at about $9.83 billion above expectations, with paid memberships at 282.7 million. That's also above expectations, which is not bad whatsoever. Net income saw a nice increase, and then their projections for the full year of 2025 are relatively strong, with about $43 to $44 billion, which is not bad. I also want to mention that with subscriber growth and everything, things are not looking too bad. I do want to call out the fact that they're talking about how Q4 is going to likely be pretty strong because they have a lot of things coming out in Q4. They have the second season of their hit show Squid Game coming out. They also have some live sports such as a boxing match and a couple of other things like some NFL games. So pretty cool stuff. This could lead to a lot of growth in Q4. So we're expecting a strong quarter. And then next year has good guidance, which is why the share price is up. It's up almost 5% so far, so not bad. One thing worth noting about the market for tomorrow is that we have about 780,000 of these calls expiring and a little bit under 3 million of puts expiring as of right now. We have 567 as max pain with the 3.76 put to call ratio. So what's going to likely happen? Will the market makers squeeze these shorts and cause a big pump, or will the market kind of pump and dump? We'll just have to wait and see. Now, as far as Tesla goes, the Semi is going to be available worldwide, according to Elon Musk. This is very significant because Tesla's working on ramping up production for it. This is a Semi Class 8 electric truck. Musk is saying it's going to be available worldwide, so just keep that in mind. Many people do not believe that a 500-mile range Class 8 truck would be feasible, and some people think that it may have issues as Tesla has credibility with autonomy. But Tesla has done the unlikely, and they have once again achieved a low volume production of it. We have nice deals with like PepsiCo and a few more other companies. Even when I traveled to California once, I actually saw a couple of them, so they looked very, very cool. And excuse me, and I think that is just a very, very nice glimpse into the future. So basically, what's going on is Tesla's working on another plant next to the one in Nevada near Reno, and they want to wrap up production in 2025, basically reaching a goal of 50,000 of these trucks per year to be produced. So very, very bullish stuff. Musk is saying it's not just going to be in America, but also across the world. I do agree with him for the longer term. It's very, very possible. But we have to look at infrastructure and other factors like that to develop with them as years go on. But I do think it's still going to be very big, and especially like Europe, I think this could be pretty useful. And I think that this is the future. So Tesla has its hands in something that's very bullish for the long term. Besides that, I didn't really see a shift in analyst ratings. I went over this in the past as Goldman Sachs, Cantor Fitzgerald, a few more like Oppenheimer are all giving Tesla kind of like neutral ratings after the robotaxi event. The price price ratio is kind of flat right now, not really doing much. We didn't see more volatility on Fridays as we're green about 49% of the time. And we tend to see more volatility at 11 o'clock a.m. and also at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, right now, volume is at about 49 million. It's a little bit below average, so not that bad, but we'll see how things end up going right here. So as far as Tesla goes, we're kind of range bound right now, going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. If we manage to hold above 220, we're looking for a target of 223.5. But I think that for the most part, Tesla is going to be kind of consolidating, not really dumping too much, not really pumping. We have support at 220 and 219. If that fills us, look for 217 and 215. Losing 215 would turn us really bearish, and breaking past 225 would turn us a little bit more bullish. As of right now, we're stuck in the middle, so give this the time it needs. So we have to be very, very conscious of that. So what do I think Tesla is going to do? What is my personal assessment of this? I think what's happening is we are basically getting ready for a very, very big move. I think that the big move is going to be because of earnings. I think that right now the company is waiting for that. So earnings are going to be absolutely massive for the company. I think that that's going to be the biggest driving factor. And approaching next week, I think Tesla will remain very, very flat and may continue to consolidate. So we'll have to see how things go. Like I said in my video yesterday, I just want to mention that when you look at the daily time frame, if we're bullish after earnings and Musk kind of like excites a lot of investors, Tesla could attempt to fill this gap and push back up to the 240s. If not, if Tesla does poorly, we easily fall all the way down closer to about the 190s, in my opinion. So it could go either way. We'll see how earnings goes. So I just want to call that out. But for tomorrow, specifically, we're going to likely just see a lot of range bound price action, the low 220s. Not really much until next week. So I just want to keep that in mind. For SPY, the 4-hour time frame is showing a very interesting trend, like I talked about yesterday. We love to basically hold our 20 EMA. Here we were riding it up again, bouncing off of it. We did dip below it temporarily because of bad news, only to bounce off our 50 EMA, the yellow line right here. And now we're riding our 20 again. We're holding it very well. So if you want to turn bearish on SPY, you want to see it lose 581. If that fails us, we easily dip to these lows at 578, followed by the 50 EMA down here. If you're bullish, you want to see us hold this support and try to rebound to try to fill this imbalance. As of right now, the trend is a little bit more bullish on SPY as we're making higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows. And there's lots of shorts expiring. So the most likely possibility is we kind of dip closer to this 20 EMA, then rebound for a test close to about 585 all over again going into tomorrow. Even if we hit 585, there's no guarantee we continue to hold up. We could kind of push to resistance, then slow down and consolidate in a range. So that's what I think SPY is going to do. We kind of like dip, then bounce for 585, then we just consolidate as the most likely possibility. I will turn more bearish, however, if we were to lose 581, but that hasn't been the case yet, so we have to be very patient. For ES, we're just range bound. We have support at 58.82, and we have this resistance to watch for around 5,900. We're stuck in the middle going back and forth and back and forth. We could be testing 58.82, and we'll see if we bounce or not. If we lose this, we're looking for a dip back down towards 58.70. My gut tells me this is going to try to hold, and we may attempt to bounce to this imbalance to the 5,900 area as the most likely possibility. For Nvda, it's the same thing essentially. If we were to lose 137, we're looking for 135 as support. And that fills us, we're looking for a big rug pull to the lower 130s. If we start pushing higher, we're looking for 138 as resistance. If that breaks, we're looking for 140. My gut tells me this might try to rebound a little bit higher for about 138, then just continue to consolidate between 137 and 140 as the most likely case. So we'll see how things end up going. For Bitcoin, we have 66,582 as our support, and we have 68,000 is our resistance. We could dip to the 66,500 area, then rebound, just continue to trade sideways as the most likely case. For other factors out there, we also have NQ. NQ is kind of stuck in the middle. If we were to lose 20,362, we could be dipping back down towards 20,200. If we hold and break above 20,400, we're looking for basically 20,500. My gut tells me we're going to be pushing for 20,500 as Netflix did good on earnings, but there is one problem. We had a high here, we came down at a lower high. So if we don't break past the high right here at 20,600, this could actually just kind of like pop and then eventually start dipping for a lower high. So I think what's going to happen is this is going to rebound a little bit and try to hit resistance at 20,500. And we'll see if we could crack past the high or not. And if this is going to be a downtrend or not. We'll be watching for that on NQ and the QQQ. The QQQ has this resistance around this 500 area, came down, made a lower high. So look for a rebound as well. If we break past 492 and hold it, look for 494. We need to break past 496 to remain bullish. Otherwise, we could be making a lower high and then reject. If we lose 489, we're looking for a dip back down. So we'll have to see how things end up going. So be very conscious of this. We could attempt to push up for 495 and we'll see if he rejects. So give this the time it needs and we'll see how things end up going. For Aapl, it's the same thing. We had a high up here. We came down in a lower high. Might attempt to rebound for 233, and we'll see if we break 235 or not. It's possible we go up to 233, then reject and start dipping again. So a pop and drop looks very probable. But we'll see if we break past 233 to get to 235, or if we hit the 233s and then reject. Uh, I think we're going to kind of push for the 233s, maybe consolidate for a bit, then maybe slow down as the most likely case. For Netflix, on the other hand, we are looking more bullish because we're back above our key EMAs, and the 4 hour is building a lot of momentum after this strong report came out for earnings, especially because their guidance is quite good for Q4. So I think that the odds are fair, and this is going to try to push as long as we don't lose 710. This is a very very bullish chart. That looks like it wants to go up to about 736. For CE LH or Celsius Holdings, it's looking a little bit more bullish. If we break past 32.65, we're looking for 33.2. There's a good chance it may attempt to rebound a bit, but I do want to call out the fact that we had a high here, came down, made a lower high, then came down. So it could pop to these highs and then reject. We'll see if that ends up being the case. Look for a rebound at first. For Palantir, Palantir's trying to rebound here. Look for a test of 42.25 and 43 as our resistance areas. If we lose 41.15, we could be dipping. So I think we might be pushing higher for basically 42.6. So look for a little bit of a rebound right over here, and we'll see if we reject. But so far, we're doing a pretty good job. Look and see if we push for the 43s, and we'll see if that rejection comes. So be very, very patient nonetheless. For Supermicro, we're just range bound, going back and forth, back and forth, and back and forth. We might attempt to rebound for 49. But we'll see if we get a rejection off that to start dipping back down to 46. It's completely range bound right now, not really doing a whole lot. So I'm not really expecting too much from Supermicro. But because of Netflix's earnings, we could be looking for 49 or just under 49 to be tested, and we'll see if you reject. So be very patient for now. For Rivian, we're kind of on a bit of a downtrend so far. We'll have to see how it ends up reacting right over here. We have resistance around this 20.24 area or 10.24 area. If that breaks, we're looking for 10.5. If this rejects, we're looking for a dip back down. Rivian is kind of bearish as we're failing to break past our 20 EMA. So this is favoring that it might actually hit 10.42, then reject and start dipping back down towards 10 flat. For SoFi is holding basically 9.69 as our support. If that fails us, we're looking for a dip back down towards 9.15. And we have this resistance around 10. I think SoFi may be pushing to the low 10s, but then it could reject later on if we are looking for a lower high to be established. So look for a rebound very close to 10 before it continues to reject. For the IWM Russell 2000, we are starting to downtrend a little bit as well. The resistance at 227 is main support to watch at 225. We might be dipping a little bit to 225 before it attempts to rebound. So I think 224 to 225 is going to be coming, and then it may try to bounce after that. So look for a small dip on the chart. For AMD, just like a lot of the semiconductors out there, it's actually slowing down a little bit. It's not doing that great of a job at holding up. And also, I want to call out the fact that we're making lower highs. The high here came down, made a lower high came down, made a lower high came down. So look at 157 as resistance, followed by 160. If we don't reclaim those resistance areas, we could be dipping back down towards 152. If 152 fails us, we have a gap to fill all the way down towards 149. So I think what's going to happen is this is going to attempt to rebound for about 158. And then if we don't reclaim 160, if we come short of that, there's a chance it's just going to make a lower high and then continue to reject. And our target's going to be all the way down here around that gap fill into the lower 150s. Now, also, I think we could draw a trend line like this. I think I see that you could draw it kind of like this. You could see how this, this resistance is kind of slowing it down. So we could rebound a bit, hit the trend line, and then kind of reject around 158 and start tipping back down to fill this gap as the most likely case thus far. For ARM, for those who are interested, ARM is looking a little bit weak right here. The reason for that is because we had a high here, we made a lower high. So we'll just have to see if we establish a lower high again or not. So from how I see things, I think that there's a good chance that ARM could be testing 153.5 as their support, followed by 149.3. We might rebound a bit to try to test 157, and we'll see if we reject off this or not. So look for some upside for 157, and we'll see how the reaction happens to be. For Coinbase, we're slowing down, we're contracting a little bit. Look for an attempt for 208, and then we could reject and start dipping closer to about 200 flat. I think it might dip a little bit, and then we'll see if we get a bounce later on. So be very, very conscious of that. Be very, very patient nonetheless. So that's what we're basically going to be looking for. So that's what I see basically going on with the chart thus far. For other factors out there, I just want to mention that we are still holding up well, but there is that risk of downside. And we'll see what happens with Bitcoin, which will affect this. For Amazon, we're holding up very nicely, making lower highs. We're making higher lows, excuse me. We could dip to about 186 to 187 before it tries to rebound and push higher for 189. If we lose 186, I turn more bearish, and I think we're at risk of coming down to about the 184s. My gut tells me that Amazon's going to continue to consolidate and try to push. So for a test of the 186, it's going to bounce back up towards 188. It's going to be the most likely case. For Meta's making lower highs right here. We have this resistance to watch for around 581 to 583. But if you look at the trend, we have kind of like a double top, and we're looking a little bit weak. If we don't reclaim 585, I think the odds favor is kind of dipping lower. So look for an attempt to push for basically 581 to 583 in this range, then potentially a rejection and move back down to this imbalance, which could drag us even lower. I think that Meta is showing some weakness with this big red bar. So look for a pop back into the 580 area, then a rejection, and a move back down towards the lower 570s. For a few more, we have Microsoft, which is just consolidating in a range. We have 418 as our resistance, and our support is back down here around this 414 area. So we're going back and forth, not really doing a whole lot. So we'll see. We could pop a little bit towards 418, then start tipping back down towards 414, but we're just range bound for the time being. For Google, we have kind of like a head and shoulders like structures, like a left shoulder here, a head up here, then a right shoulder that's forming. We could rebound a bit for this 165 area, and if we reject here, we're looking for a bigger dip back down to this imbalance. There's 163. If we continue to fall, we're looking for this imbalance to fill again. So we'll see if we rebound and reject. So give this the time it needs. For DJT, we had a high up here. We came down at a lower high. This looks like it's going to be dipping back down to 28.36, but overall it's riding its 20 EMA very nicely. So look for a small dip to the 28, and we'll see if we bounce off that or not on DJT. If not, we're going back down to 24, and if we do, we could try to bounce. So we'll see how this ends up moving. For the VIX, we're continuing to downtrend thus far, but we'll see if the VIX gets a bounce or not. Let me just call out one thing about the VIX. Basically, when you look at the VIX, you'll see that we have this big gap over here to fill all the way up towards the 36 area. So that suggests to me there's going to be a big increase in implied volatility, at least for the broader markets. There's going to be a big increase. So I think that it could be happening approaching the election, if not after the election. But over the next few months, there is a risk of the market getting a rug pull. But that does not mean it will happen now, right? There's no sign of it happening yet. So we can't be too overly bearish yet. We have to wait and see. The 10 year is trying to push higher. We'll see how this goes. It's not really affecting the market as much. The dollar breaking out doesn't really guarantee anything because correlation does not mean causation. Just because historically the dollar does tend to be having an opposite reaction as the market, it doesn't guarantee it has to happen every time. The market's been holding up well, and so is the dollar. The dollar could be signifying that there's a rug pull coming, but there's no sign of it yet on the charts, which is why we have to be very patient. With that being said, the market's holding support nicely, and Tesla is just consolidating. There's a good chance Tesla will rebound at least later on to try to get to that 223 area for a small push. But I think for the most part, we're just going to be trading sideways. I believe that the big move that's coming to Tesla is going to be coming once we get earnings. So we'll see if Elon Musk could really hit the ball out of the park, if he gives us something that's just absolutely incredible or not. So we'll just have to wait and see. Until then, I want to thank you all so much for listening. So please have a great day, guys. I'll see you guys again in my next video for tomorrow before the market opens. Until then, have a great day, night, or evening. Tesla to the moon, because the long term is still very bright for Tesla, despite the short term downside that we've been seeing. And until I see you guys again, thank you for listening and peace out.